Alrighty, here we go. Brand new Flyers Daily. Last episode for the month of April, April 30th, 2025. Flyers Daily presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. I was trying to figure out for this episode, maybe this would be the episode where we would start our Flyers exit interview series. Great conversations that we were able to have with a bunch of the players, executives, and more. But I think we're going to start those on Friday because I think there's some stuff I want to talk about in this episode instead of jumping right into the Flyers exit day interview questions. First thing first, the NHL draft lottery looks like it'll be Monday night, May 5th. So just around the corner. Generally, they've done this, I think, pregame before the first games. So probably on ESPN at like 6:30 showtime before 7 o'clock games take place. And we know where the Flyers are. They're in the fourth best situation to land the top overall pick at 9.5%. We know all the odds and breakdowns of them. But a big night because a lot can be determined on that night. Sometimes it can be determined not just positive, but negative. I mean, think back to 2017. Flyers move all the way up from 13-2. They end up taking one of the consensus top two players. It was Hischier and Patrick. Patrick and Hischier back and forth throughout the season. But Nolan Patrick's had a core injury in March playing for the Brandon Wheat Kings, and it dropped him to second. Devils opted to go with Hischier. Flyers drafted Patrick number 2 overall, and then the third pick, you see Heiskanen go, you see Makar go, Elias Pettersson, and the rest is history. But we're hoping for better things. We're hoping things are moving in the right direction. And maybe, just maybe, I mean, for goodness sake, come with me, people here. Maybe it's just time for a little bit of good luck for the Flyers. I mean, you create your own luck in sports. It's about winning and losing and putting yourself in the best position to win a lot more than you lose and to be a successful franchise. And what is a successful franchise? It's a franchise that puts a good, honest product on the ice, a franchise that is a big part of the community, and a franchise that honors its past, respects its past, but forges a new path forward with where the game is now. You can't live on glory days. So that's a key element to this whole thing. And maybe the Flyers can get some luck. Maybe they end up with the number 1 overall pick. And do they take Schaefer or do they take Misa at number 2? You go, well, number 1 center is the thing that maybe is harder to find than a top pairing. I don't know. We'll see about the evaluations. We'll get to the draft discussion in due time. But coming up Monday, it'll be the NHL draft lottery. So we look forward to that. We might be doing a live stream for that as well. We're checking on some legality issues that we may have to hurdle to be able to do that. So we're looking to do that. I'd love to be live when the NHL draft lottery happens, no matter what happens. But we'll see what happens with that come Monday. Secondly, Rick Tocchet's name came out of Vancouver as staying with the Canucks through internal discussions with Jim Rutherford, Patrick Alvin, the general manager, and Rick Tocchet. They've decided to part ways. Now, he had an option on his contract that the Vancouver Canucks basically rescinded, and if they were going to move forward, they were going to move forward on a new contract. Obviously, that didn't happen. Why didn't it happen? I don't know. I'm not there in Vancouver. It was messy there this year, obviously, with the JT Miller, Elias Pettersson situation. A year after they had 109 points and were a bona fide cup contender. They were beset by some injuries this year as well. Thatcher Demko being out was a big one that hurt them. But Rick Tocchet is now available as a head coach candidate for a multitude of jobs. You got Seattle open. You now got Vancouver open. He's obviously not going to go there. You've got the Rangers. You got the Bruins. You got the Penguins open now. You've got the Flyers. You know, there's not only jobs open, but there's really some prestigious markets that are open for NHL head coaching jobs. Now, you'd say every market's prestigious. There's only 32 of them. But rank them how you would. You know, you look at a team like the Rangers and you go, is that a spot other than it being New York and being the Rangers? And that carries cachet, no doubt. Um, where does that kind of rank with these open franchises for a potential head coach that's got options? Does a Mike Sullivan look at the Rangers and say, boy, it's been really messy here under Chris Drury? Peter Laviolette was the President's Trophy winning coach the year before he got zipped. Gerard Gallant lasted 2 years. Like, what's going on here? Is this really a good situation? Plus an aging core. You got to look at what they have coming from a prospect standpoint and all that. Same thing with Boston. You look at Boston. It got real messy there this year. What's the future look like in Boston? Yeah, they still have Pasternak. Yeah, they still have, Charlie Mack. They got some good players. McAvoy, they got some good players there. But are they a team that can swing back real quick? And does a coach with options, and several good options, look at that situation and say, this isn't a quick turnaround? I'm probably not the right guy for a rebuild. If you're Mike Sullivan, you look at it and go, I came in Pittsburgh in 2015, picked up a team that was not in the playoffs when I took over for Michel Therrien, got them into the playoffs, and won back-to-back cups. And then hasn't won a whole lot in the playoffs since. Obviously, an aging core, not a lot of prospects coming for Pittsburgh. Does he want to go into a situation where he's got to build from rebuild? Are the Bruins going to rebuild? Are the Rangers going to rebuild? Are the Rangers going to rebuild like they did last time when they sent a letter to fans? And then they got Panarin, they got Fox. Shesterkin came. That's all. So it'll be interesting to see how these candidates all take shape. But obviously, Rick Tocchet's name is linked to the Flyers. And it's been talked about. And look, I don't know if his name is linked to the Flyers based on credible information or just on obvious information that he played here. He was a guy that knows the identity of the city. He played to the identity of the city. He's very well liked in hockey circles, blah, blah, blah. And, is he linked because they're really looking at him? Or is he just linked because of his past? Now, he played 11 years as a Flyer. He played 621 games as a Flyer over an 18-year career where he played 1,144 games. He had good numbers, too. 508 points in 621 games as a Flyer. All said and done in his career, 952 points in 1,144 games. And people are losing their mind on social media. Now, Rick Tocchet has not been hired. I don't know if he's a candidate. I would talk to him, no doubt about it. I would talk to Mike Sullivan. I would talk to other guys that are available. I think you do an exhaustive search. I think you can learn things about your team, its perception in the league, and your players by interviewing guys that were recently NHL head coaches. So even if you're not really considering the guy, I think you stand to at least talk to him because you can gain some intel that way as well. Now, Rick Tocchet, as I mentioned, has the Flyers past, and the notion, and what people say on social media is, oh, here we go again. Good old boy network. We're just going to hire a former Flyer. There has been a ton of former Flyer coaches, not non-former Flyer coaches, that had no ties to the organization at all. Whether that was Peter Laviolette, who did take the team to a cup final in 2010, whether that was Dave Haxtell, who came from the college game, whether that was Alain Vigneault or Mike Yeo or John Tortorella. None of these coaches over this period of time, since, say, 2012 to now, are past Flyer coaches. Only one. One was in there, Craig Berube. And because of the shift in general managership from Paul Holmgren to Ron Hextall, and Ron Hextall wanted to instill his pick as coach for the Flyers, and he chose Dave Haxtell and moved on from Craig Berube, who went on to eventually be the head coach in St. Louis and win a cup in 2019, and is now the head coach in Toronto. And I think there's going to be handshakes tonight. The game's going on in the background for me right now, so I don't know. But they look like a bona fide cup contender. They have players, of course, but that was the only guy over that period of time that had former Flyer connections. I don't care if the next head coach is a former Flyer. I've said it on the podcast before. I don't care if he's a former Dallas Cowboy. I just want the right guy. And because Rick Tocchet played 621 games here of his 1,144, doesn't make him any more the right guy, and it doesn't make him any more the wrong guy. Now, I don't know, again, if he's going to be considered. I imagine he'll be talked to, but I look at it and I'm going, that is not a bearing on my decision at all. This notion that you can't, because a guy played for your organization, that somehow excludes him from consideration. Now, okay, let's look at the relevant facts. Tocchet has been a coach in the NHL in 3 different stints. He was in Tampa in 2008 to 2010, 2 years. In the first year, he coached 66 games. They had 52 points. The next year, they were a playoff team. Or were they a playoff? They finished third in the division. So, yeah, they were a playoff team. Then he went to Arizona, which I can't pin too much on any coach in Arizona because it's Arizona. But in Arizona, he actually did take that team to the playoffs one year. And that was in 2019-20. So that was the pandemic year. They played 70 games that year. They had 74 points, a .529 points percentage. Then, after Arizona, he ends up in Vancouver. And last year in Vancouver, the 23-24 season, his first full season there, they had 109 points. They went 50-23-9, and they were all over it. And he won the Jack Adams Coach of the Year. This year, things kind of went sideways in Vancouver. They did finish with 90 points, although out of the playoffs. 38, 30, and 14. It got messy. I think it's often very messy in Vancouver. And when Jim Rutherford is your president and basically usurps the general manager, Patrick Alvin, all the time, it can get messy, and it did with JT Miller and Elias Pettersson. So, okay, his coaching resume is there. He's got experience, doesn't have a ton of big-time success. He is well thought of in hockey circles, but you read on Flyers Twitter, they make the assumption that because of the way he played the game, that's the way he coaches the game. And it's just not the case. There's this notion, too, that he's an offensive killer because all he does is preach defense. Now, I will tell you that I have never met a hockey coach that was, no matter how fluent he was in the offensive part of the games, no matter how visionary they were as a strategist and systems and a way of attacking an opponent, I've never met a hockey coach that was not a huge priority on defending. You have to defend. This is a net-sum sport. Preventing goals is just as important as scoring goals. So, but the notion that he just wants players to be defensive, they never get up, is totally baloney. So I talked to a bunch of people, and I've seen Rick Tocchet teams. I know the identity of their teams and what they like to do. And I talked to some people that cover the Canucks and dug deep on this about his coaching style. Yes, he wants detailed defensive zone coverage. Again, there is not a coach in the sport who doesn't want that and doesn't preach that. It's what you do when you defend and you go the other way. That's the only thing that's different. In their D zone, they run a typical box and one. The box, basically 4 guys form a box. That takes away the middle of the ice, especially in today's game, where you see the highest danger scoring chances are tips, rebounds, and cross-ice one-time shots across the slot. That prevents it because sticks are in lanes. You can't get the cross-ice pass to get the goalie moving side to side, so on and so forth. That's number one. It's just a box and one. It's pretty common stuff that they run in the D zone. They'll run some zone, they'll run some man, depends on the situation, depends on the opponent. Now, when they leave the zone, their strategy is to get up the ice, play with pace, north-south game, and create high-danger scoring chances by stressing your opponent with speed and skill. It's not Everybody assumes because of when he played in the NHL and played for the Flyers, he's just a dump and chase and get in and work hard and cycle the puck. That's not the system that he runs. Basically, they run a 2-1-2 split forecheck, which we've talked about before, which is very aggressive, designed to sell out a little on the forecheck in hopes of creating a turnover and turning that into a quick, high danger scoring chance. That's the reason why you do it. You put F1 goes to the guy, defenseman with the puck. F2 takes away the D-to-D pass. F3 is high, reading the play to the strong side. If the puck gets rimmed up the boards, D pinches down the wall. F3 covers the point position. It's a very aggressive forecheck. If it's beat, if the forecheck is beat and they're able to get the D-to-D pass or a quick pass to go in transition, then the other team's got numbers because you got two guys down below the goal line, presumably, F1 and F2, and the third guy reading or covering. And that's not advantageous to have a forward taking on an odd man rush opportunity coming the other way. So it's a very aggressive forecheck. Neutral zone, pretty standard, 1-2-2. In the neutral zone, nothing crazy there. But two things can be true. You can be a coach that preaches details and defending and playing defensively in your zone the right way. And again, every coach will do it. And you can also be a coach that preaches get up the ice with pace and create stress for your opponent. One thing that is clear as day in today's game of the NHL is that if you let a team fall back into their structure defensively, you're playing to their advantage. If you are coming up the ice with speed in transition, then you have the advantage. You are dictating and not playing into their structure. Now, the thing about it is you have to have players that can execute that. You need speed. Flyers do have some speedy players. Owen Tippett's one of the fastest guys in the NHL. They have some other guys that can play with pace. But there's also, it's not just skating pace, it's playing with pace. You look at a guy like Philip Roenick with Vancouver, or obviously Hughes, and you look at the way they play. Quinn Hughes loved playing for him. Why? Because he's a get up and go, jump in the play, join the rush defenseman to create offense and create high danger chances. So again, the notion that because a coach has defensive accountability for his players doesn't mean that comes at a cost of offense. I just don't get the thinking. They're two different zones of the game. He's not asking his wingers to be down below the bottom of the circles in the D zone. It just seems a little crazy to me. But I know how the thing goes, where these things and these narratives pick up steam. Now, his system, Rick Tocchet's, he hasn't had the same level of success as John Cooper, who runs a very similar system, except for the neutral zone. Tampa Bay generally runs a 1-3-1 in the neutral zone. Tocchet runs a 1-2-2. A little bit of a difference. Cooper's teams don't play with the same pace up the ice as north-south because they have a player in Nikita Kucherov that plays a lot of east-west hockey in the offensive zone. Flyers have that too. Mishkov plays a lot of east-west in the offensive zone, albeit positionless hockey. So, look, I don't know if Rick Tocchet's the right guy. I don't. And again, I don't care that he's a former Flyer. And I know people look back and, oh, no, a former Flyer. Here we go again. Team hasn't won since 75. I know. I've lived every year of that. Hire the right guy. If it's Rick Tocchet, hire him. If it's Mike Sullivan, hire him. If it's Todd Nelson, head coach of the Hershey Bears, hire him. Hire the right guy. I'm not going to pretend I'm in these interviews and in these conversations. I know Danny Briere has mentioned he wants a guy that talks about playing with pace and offense. Well, Rick Tocchet's system actually does that. There's a reason why Quinn Hughes loves him, because that's exactly the offense that he preaches. And again, obviously Tocchet's going to preach physicality. He's going to preach work ethic Any coach worth his salt preaches these things. People see that that's the character that he coaches, and they make it sound like it's a bad thing. But that's probably just because of the narrative, the ex-Flyer narrative. Now, has he had a ton of success in the NHL? No, he hasn't. Can he still have success as a head coach in the NHL? I don't know. That's for Danny Briere, Keith Jones, Dan Ho. They need to figure that out. But people are freaking out already. And I just don't even know if I can just even remain on social media if he's named the head coach. You have to have some faith sometimes. And I know it's hard to have faith with where this team has been since 2012 and the missteps and the, seemingly promises that were never fulfilled. The Ron Hextall building up of the drafted players and the prospects, and where did that get the Flyers? I get all of that. There's scar tissue. But this is a regime now that had nothing to do with that. And sports, sometimes you have to take a leap of faith. You can question it, no doubt about it. The one thing I don't see on social media at all is this. People saying, oh, if they hire Tocchet, they're just hiring a defensive guy, blah, blah, blah. But they never seem to give me who they want them to hire. They just complain about the names in the rumor mill. Or they don't explain what they want out of a head coach, other than somebody that can maximize Mishkov's talent. Any coach that's coming in here in the interview, it's going to be one of the first questions. How do you maximize this player to be as effective as possible in all areas of the ice? Because he's unique. And again, I'd love to hear 6 different coaching candidates' thoughts on how to do that with Matvei Michkov, who he needs to be with, what kind of players he needs to be with. I love getting that kind of vision and intel from guys that were coaches in the league. I think that's useful information. So we'll see how this coaching search plays out. If Rick Tocchet is a candidate, or who the other candidates might be. And we'll see how it all plays out. But enough of the hysteria that he was a former Flyer. If he's the right guy, hire the right guy. Who cares that he was a former Flyer? I don't. I don't know why that bothers people so much. Because the people that are bothered by it don't seem to recognize that since 2012, a bunch of the coaches that didn't succeed here had no connection to the Flyers. The one that did have connections here won a cup in 2019. All right, that's Flyers Daily. We'll be back Friday. Join us then on a brand new Flyers Daily.